Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've got a couple of news stories to go through with you, but really, I wanted to talk about a bigger problem maybe in comics, and it's the lack of surprise. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. But granted, there's definitely going to be some of you in the comments like, "Oh, he's overreacting about this," and for sure, this is just kind of one of those random things that I'm bringing to your attention. But one of the cooler parts about comic books when it's done well is surprise. It's when the shock ending of a comic book really is a shock, or when a new series that launches with a creative team is actually a shocking creative team that you didn't expect to see together, and it just works. It's magic. If you look at the biggest events, I mean, if you look at what got people's attention in sales, whether it was Spider-Man getting the symbiote costume way back in Secret Wars, whether it was the reveal of Peter Parker as Spider-Man in Civil War, even a lot of what Bendis did in the early parts of the Avengers, that run was very successful, and it was filled with surprises and shocks. You know, Spider-Woman being a Skrull, or the entire way that the Dark Reign happened, the Norman Osborn getting the power and control over things. Surprises work. They've always worked. And so when you inject surprises into comic books, you tend to be rewarded with attention and sales. So, and what I'm about to go through is not exactly like that. I was talking about storyline things. But even if you go beyond it, when John Byrne jumped to DC and started doing Superman, that was a big get, and it was shocking. You know, John Byrne was for years, for many people, a Marvel guy, and then suddenly he's doing DC work. When Bendis did move to DC, now the results of that move didn't really pan out in a way that people were excited about it, but it was shocking. I'd even argue whether or not you're a fan of Tom King. When Tom King went from The Vision, which was critically successful, and people really believed that Tom King would do more with Marvel, but instead went over to DC and started doing work there, it was surprising. It shook up the industry. Even kind of dumb little things, DC moving to Tuesdays, or changing distribution away from Diamond. All these moments tend to be kind of big industry-shaking moments. Robert Kirkman getting G.I. Joe and Transformers. The comic books is better and healthier, makes more money, and has more interest when you have surprises. And even if some of those surprises turn out to be bad ones, it still is better when you can't predict everything that's going on. So let me, and what caught my attention when I was just looking over kind of the news and what happened during the week in comics, and I'll read this headline to you. Venom War #1. I did read that comic. I'll be honest. I missed. I did not get the premise at all. Venom War #1 is primarily set in a wrestling ring where people are wrestling, but maybe they have powers some of the time. I think this surely this was referenced somewhere else in Al Ewing's run, and I just didn't get it. But anyway, it's thoroughly confusing. What the fuck's going on there? Venom is an example of, for all the crap people talk about Donny Cates introducing Null, kind of the other things he did, it still was relatively coherent. The Al Ewing, God damn, it makes, I don't know, it's strayed so far from the plot. It's ridiculous. But anyway, listen to this headline. Venom War #1 puts the last person you'd ever expect back in the symbiote. Can you guess? Can you guess who's back in the symbiote? It's Spider-Man. It's Peter Parker. It's the last person you've ever expected, except it's not the last person you've ever expected. It's exactly the person you would expect. So this big shocking moment of Peter Parker is back in the symbiote, and it says, just as Dylan is explaining no longer has it, it's revealed who does. Peter Parker, who is leaping into the wrestling arena, once again bonded to the Venom symbiote in the revival of one of the most unlikely pairings in the Marvel Universe, complete with an updated version of Peter's black costume. Is it unlikely? Is this surprising? How is it surprising? Are you surprised by this? Anyway, I am not. We'll get to another one here. It's this one. I read the headline and I immediately had a thought to it, and then sure enough, you get right to it. But this is news. Hit erotic comic Sweet Paprika gets a spicy new spinoff from Scarlet Witch writer Steve Orlando. Okay, I liked Sweet Paprika. It's Mirka Andolfo, and it was fun. Her art style is kind of it's slightly different. It has an indie feel to it. It's good. It's slick. I enjoy Mirka's work. And it was a fun comic. It wasn't like one of those things you're going to remember for decades to come, but it was fun. And comics being fun is a good thing. So I'm like, oh, they're doing a spinoff of Mirka and Adolfo's Sweet Paprika. Okay, set in a world of angels and devils. The horny office comedy drama followed the CEO of a publishing company, Infernium Press, as she tries to sort her love life out. Now, a new spinoff from Scarlet Witch Steve Orlando will expand the world further. How will it expand that world further? You want to guess? Take a guess. Take this moment. I'll read this next paragraph. Sweet Paprika Open for Business is a 5-issue queer romance comic that spits out of the short story. So here's the thing, and I'm chuckling because, cool. It's totally. I'm not saying, oh my God, now they're going queer. It's gone woke. Fuck, broke now. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, good for them. It's just. It's the most predictable news ever. It's like when you see Steve Orlando on a title now, and it's like, it's got to be gay. You just know. You don't even need to think about any of the rest. And it's kind of like if they're going to say, oh, Brian Edward Hill is going to work for Marvel again. I'm like, oh, I like Brian Edward Hill a lot. I think he writes great work. Which black character is he going to write? That shouldn't be my immediate thought. With Steve Orlando, it's like, oh, Steve Orlando's got a new comic book coming out. Who's gay? Who's gay in it? And it's think about this for a second. Is there any other industry that is so typecast now that when you hear some of these names, there's zero surprise about what they're doing? There's none. And it begs you to wonder, is it possible for Steve Orlando to do another book? Now you could say, wait a second, he was doing Scarlet Witch. You're right. He was doing Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch did explore queer themes inside the book for sure. His Iceman series more so, but just, I think it's a detriment to him that if you see his name on something, immediately you're like, oh, which gay character they got him writing now? It just, I don't know. To me, again, it's that element of none of this is surprising at all. Sometimes in a good way, by the way. Here's a different headline. Captain Underpants creator Dav Pilkey, best-selling Dogman graphic novel gets first video game adaptation. Yeah, of course it does, because it's making all kinds of money. That's why it's like successful thing gets more successful things. I don't know. Throughout all this, here's another one. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman must answer to a new boss in a game-changing, shocking issue of absolute power. Well, it's Nightwing. Again, you click on it, and it's like, oh, they're elevating Nightwing for the 5,000th time. I'm not the biggest Nightwing fan. I know some of you are, but is Nightwing getting a boost of like, we're going to finally show why Nightwing is a leader? This is the 18th time you've done that, at least. So I don't know who's surprised by any of this at this point. Anyway. I think, look, comics and the industry and everything else is always better when there are surprises. I think surprises, when they're organic work, whether they're storyline surprises or they're industry surprises, being uncertain about things going on in comics makes comics better. And whether it's storyline elements around, oh, guess what? Spider-Man is, bonded with Venom again. And guess what? The Green Goblin may be up to something shitty somewhere in the background. Or whether it's outside of comics, it's like we've hired Steve Orlando to do a new book, and we're going to explore gay themes in it. Who could have guessed? That's the kind of stuff that just people don't tune into that. Not because it's gay, but because it's boring. Surprises, I think, are intrinsic to what comics are, in my opinion, anyway. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. Thanks for listening.